Hey, how's it going? It's Walsh here, sick as always, bringing you my build guide for the self-casting Glacial Cascade Inquisitor. If you've never seen one of my guides before, I'm going to quickly break it down for you. Here in the beginning of the video, I'll talk about the character and choices I've made and why I made those choices and etc. and who I think would enjoy the build and who I think should stay away from it. If you don't want to listen to me talking at all, but you want to see the build in action, there will be a lot more demos, well, not a lot more, but more demo stuff with the character at the end of the video. In the middle of the video will be me talking about the POB and going over gear and stuff like that. But like I said, if you don't want to listen to me talk, just go ahead and skip to the end. Also, the POB will be down in the description, which if you go to the notes section, will basically have all the information you need. But if you do have a question that isn't answered in the notes or the POB, go ahead and leave a comment. I have no problem answering questions. I actually love answering questions. So anyway, let's get to the character. Before we talk about anything, let's talk about how this character feels with mapping. Now, I run pretty rippy maps pretty much all the time when I'm not like focusing on leveling a character, and I still hit 95 on this guy. Granted, I'm not gonna lie to you, once I hit like 30, 40% of a level once you're like 93 plus, I start toning down the maps a bit. Like I don't run, negative max res or, when I take the like the altars from Eater or Exarch or whatever, I don't take all the crazy damage modifiers. But overall, this character is really survivable. I don't die very often. I hit 95 pretty easily, to be honest with you. Bossing is really nice, but we'll talk more about that later. I would strongly recommend this character for anyone that wants to map just with a different feel. Like if you're tired of playing the same like 5 skills over and over again, but you still want something that's viable, like you don't want just jank, you want jank that actually works, I would really recommend Glacial Cascade. The clear speed is really nice. I'm intentionally picking like demos here of like maps that aren't ideal layouts for you and have some pretty strong mods because I want to show you this character not necessarily at its worst, but not in its ideal situation. Because if all I show you is the character at like its prime, you're gonna be like, oh man, this thing zooms at literally everything. I don't want to deceive you like that. I will have some footage. Well, in the beginning, you kind of saw a little bit. When you have these nice narrow hallways, like in maps like Pen or Grotto and stuff like that, it's pretty wonderful. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna have a sample of Pen here going on in the background while I talk. I do want to point out to you though, this map is minus max res, LE weakness, 70% more life, and turbo. And we're still going to be flying through it, no problems. Something I want to keep in your head though when you're playing Glacial Cascade, when you start giving things a lot more life, remember, freezing our enemies is one of our defensive layers while mapping, not so much against bosses. So when you're giving them a ton of life, it does make them harder to freeze. Granted, this doesn't really affect anything except for Arch Nemesis mods, and like only a few specific ones. But just keep that in mind if you're ever like in a situation where you're running rippy maps like I am, and you're like, why is this guy not freezing? Why is he slapping me in the face? That's probably why. But if you do get some chill effect, which actually I am looking for ways to get on my character right now, I'm considering moving some points around, but I don't really want to get into that too much. I don't want to confuse anybody. I will just say though, chill effect is a really nice defense layer if you can't freeze crazy arch nemesis mobs like from Essence or something like that. I do want to say though that bosses pretty much just die. Like this boss on Pen could have 300% more life. He's just gonna freeze and die like an idiot, so it doesn't matter. Speaking of bosses, let's go talk about some of the bossing on this character. All right, we're gonna start out with some Veritania. All the bosses you're gonna see have some pretty strong mods or Maven influence or whatever. I really don't like to show just like a bare naked boss and just like melt it in 2 seconds. I really don't think it gives you an accurate representation of your character because honestly, if you're not running your like Veritania, Crusader, and stuff like that rare, you're really missing out on a lot of stuff, especially in SSF. I don't think it really matters too much on trade, to be honest with you. I can't really speak to that. But I will say that I would strongly recommend you run all your bosses rare if you can. But if you can't, it's not a big deal. As you can see, though, we have no problems. We're killing them pretty quickly. The main thing that we need for our character right now is weapon upgrades, but honestly, it's really not a big deal. As you can see, even when we fight the Crusader, which we are enfeebled, and he has like increased LE res, we're still taking him down at a reasonable time. It's not like a record breaking, I'm not doing 10 mil DPS or anything like that, but it's really easy. It's a clean, solid fight. I don't know. There's something about self-casting that is really enjoyable to me. Maybe it's just because I can't really do it that much because it's kind of like I'm not gonna say dead because I'm doing it right now, but it's close to dead. The only boss I haven't really tried yet is, the Ubers. I don't think this character is going to be Uber viable. Maybe if I like push the gear really hard, because like realistically that's what you're supposed to do to fight the Ubers, but some skills are just so powerful that they can just do it anyway. But I don't know. I don't really care about farming the Ubers to be honest with you. This guy can kill Maven, Uber Elder, he can kill Cyrus, like he can delve, he can do Blight, he can do Legion. That's pretty much all I need him to do. He maps really well, is pretty defensive. It's already level 95. I'm honestly debating getting it to 97 because I was looking at the tree and I could fit in some interesting stuff if I hit that threshold. I was actually considering the option of getting a reservation jewel, slapping that on there, and I could even switch out some of my aura stuff. But I don't know. I might not do all that stuff. It's like the character's already strong and really enjoyable for me to play. So like, I just don't. It just doesn't feel necessary. But anyway, let's go take a look at our POB. All right, let's take a look at the build. First things first, let's take a quick look at our notes. Like I said earlier, if you have any questions or anything you're confused about or anything like that, please come check the notes. I try to simplify it as much as possible. I know there's a lot of text here, but I really did cut out as much of the fat as I humanly can without, neglecting information. I'm sure there are things I forgot or left out, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I love answering questions. I love talking about builds and theory crafting, so not inconvenience to me at all. Absolutely love it. So first things first, I do want to say that this character is absolutely League Start viable. There is no problem League starting it. I mean, I did it with leveling gear, obviously. It got to maps in less than 4 hours. Spark will definitely be faster than Glacial Cascade, obviously. I'm not here arguing that Glacial Cascade is faster than anything. So, but you can definitely League Start with it. You'll get to maps, no problem. You'll kill all the stuff. You'll have a good time. It's honestly like if I had like a new friend that was coming to PoE and they were like, "Hey, I want to cast spells and I just want to play the game," I would recommend this build to them because it has such a smooth progression. Like you can every time you get an upgrade, you really feel it. Like even before, like not counting the Watcher's Eye or anything like that, which as you can see, our damage is still very good. Like you don't really need any uniques. And if like I said, you can swap crown to go for even more armor if you wanted. But there is another setup we could do where you go full spell suppression, but we're not going to get into that too much. But like, every time you get a new weapon or, you get one of those nice like unnerve or what's the other one we have on here? Unnerve and exposure on hit with our gloves. Like you really feel it. And every ascendancy point feels amazing. And we get to use Battle Mage, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But overall, this character is great. Overall character, jack of all trades. I would say it's not like god tier at anything, but it does everything in the game very well. I would say it's a solid 8 or 9 map clearing, boss clearing character, and I would recommend it for pretty much anybody. A couple things I want to note on the tree here. You absolutely can go Instruments of Zeal if you want to swap out Righteous for it, and don't mind the damage there. It'll change once you get all your stacks. The thing with this, like, Fanatic charges make mapping absolutely crazy, but, like, I'm a weird guy, okay? I get anxious when, like, I have to keep track of counting stuff, like, because every time you hit 4 stacks, that's when you get Fanatic, and every time it triggers and I'm, like, not hitting, like, a rare or, like, an Essence mob or something, I feel like I'm wasting it, and it actually, like, gives me anxiety, so I don't take it. But I would definitely recommend you try it if you're not a weirdo like me, because it's very strong and it makes mapping really, really nice. Doesn't really change that much with bossing, honestly. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're cool with leap slamming 4 times in place, like every couple of seconds to kill a boss, you'll definitely do more damage, but that's not the life I want to live. Wait, are we even on consecrated ground on this thing? Okay, that makes sense. I was like, why is my regen so bad? Don't trick yourself. Never do is the enemy on consecrated ground because we have to stay at an awkward distance, which sounds more tedious than it really is. But you have to stay a little bit away from the boss to make the final wave hit them, which is not a big deal. It's pretty easy. Cast speed is very, 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 very important on this character. It does so much for us. We do have power charges, but like we're really not that invested in them. Honestly, it just gives us free not AoE, free crit and stuff like that, but it's not very crazy. Eldritch Battery, obviously. We have some ES going on, and you can see our tree is over here. You could definitely swap over to spell suppression if you wanted to, but I don't know. I might try it out at some point. That way you don't have to, and I can see if it's worth doing. But as it stands right now, I would say just go armor. It's way more straightforward, and it's absolutely strong enough without going spell suppression. I'm going to quickly go over some of this gear stuff. I don't want to, like, this video is already a lot longer than my average video. So I'm just going to quickly go over it. Weapons, keep in mind we are battle mage. Flat physical on our weapons. I actually made 2 god tier weapons just to give you an example. So here's the first one. This is going for all fizz on the weapon. And as you can see, it gives us 1.1 million. This is for all the spell stuff. It's only 887. Now you might be saying like that's really not a big difference, and you're right, it's not. If you hit a crazy like cast speed spell damage with +1 cold, absolutely use that thing. That thing will blast. But when you're crafting, keep in mind your essence of I think it's contempt, the one that gives flat physical to your weapon, really does give you a ton of damage on this character. It really does. I would strongly recommend playing around with it. Battle Mage is pretty cool, but don't get like, added lightning flat or stuff like that because that won't do as much. The reason this does so much is Glacial Cascade converts everything to cold automatically. Um, 1 second, sorry. About the gear, like I said, only go for the rare helmet if you are going spell suppression. I did misspeak earlier when I said, oh yeah, switch if you want to get like, rare helmet with more armor or anything. No. Only go for a rare helmet if you're going spell suppression or you don't have a Crown of the Inward Eye yet, because Crown is honestly pretty hard to beat. But I will say, these 2 mods right here, the damage penetration and the cast speed, really makes the damage like not so much of a factor. It's more of like the survivability that Crown gives us. If you can't tell already, my voice is dying. It's on its last legs. I just want to cover the important things really quickly. Make sure at least one of your rings has 40 plus dex. Like I say here, 50 would be a lot better, but 40 is totally fine. And make sure your amulet has dexterity on it. Also, +1 level of cold is better than +1 level of physical. Cast speed, like you're kind of dreaming. Getting +1 cast speed and life, you're kind of dreaming. But if you hit it, God bless. You're a lucky bastard. Chaos Res is actually kind of easy to get on this character. I was struggling for a little bit because like I had some awkward rings, but now like my rings are pretty good. They lack, as you notice, a lot of my gear lacks resistance, and that's just kind of like the choices I've made. But like we're still res cap, no problem. We can cheat, and I think I did. Yeah, I took this note here, which if you don't have as shitty res ranks as I do, you can get rid of that, and you can I'm gonna put it back and you can get, something somewhere else. You can probably get yourself a jewel socket or something. But anyway, that's pretty much the whole build. It's very defensive, good mapper, good bosser. I absolutely love playing it. It's really fun. We get Herald of Ice, which if you know me, you know that I am addicted to Herald of Ice. So the end of the video is just going to be like probably only a minute or so of a demo because this video is super long. I don't like making them this long, so I apologize about that. But I hope you enjoy the build. If you do play it, please let me know and how it goes, and thank you for watching.